All right, guys. So, this is the first video for you guys in terms of being able to kind of have a lesson with me without me having to actually teach you a lesson. So, the book you're reading is Animal Farm, which you already know. I want to go over some background. George Orwell is also the author of the book 1984, which is, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but the concept of Big Brother, that you're always being watched. And that's where that idea came from, his book called 1984. George Orwell was an outsider during his youth. He earned a scholarship to a prestigious boarding school as a youth, but because he was a poor kid amongst many rich children, didn't really fit in so well. He was a lower upper middle class, which means his family was pretty well off, but they weren't as wealthy as the people that around him. And he drew inspiration from his books with the snobbishness and social elitism that he experienced while he was in school. He brought Big Brother to the world with the book 1984. He was a political writer. He did not like the rise of the totalitarian leaders such as Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, those kind of dictator type leaders. He was not a fan of them, and that was where a lot of his writing stemmed from. He wrote political satires that poked fun at the weakness of government, and similar themes are explored in both Animal Farm and 1984, and that's because they're both kind of political satires. So, Animal Farm, let's get some background. It presents a terrifying picture of a world without personal freedom. It serves as an allegory, which we will go over more, of the history of Soviet communism. I'm sure, or maybe not, you've heard the word communism thrown around in the media and stuff. Communism and socialism are two different things, so not to confuse the two. You could do more research on those, and we can talk about it if you want. But yeah, Russia was and is communist, which is a big difference than being socialist. In the story, the pigs Napoleon and Snowball are symbolic of Soviet leaders Joseph Stalin and Leon Trotsky. So after this week, after you do your Russian timeline project to learn a little bit about the Russian Revolution and the rise of communism, you'll get a better idea of who those people are. And hopefully you'll be able to make the connections between the real people and the real ideas of communism and the Russian Revolution and the characters of Animal Farm. So the background of Animal Farm, it presents a terrifying picture of a world without personal... Did that already? Sorry. Literary focus. Manor Farm becomes Animal Farm. The setting is a farm in England. The tone is objective and ironic, and point of view is third person omniscient, which we know is all knowing. So we're going to get the point of view of every character in the story, not just one. The protagonists or the heroes are the working class animals, and the antagonists are the authority figures or some of the pigs. The pigs grow in power throughout the book, and they learn the same skills and habits, good and bad, of their predecessors, which were the humans. So we have personification, symbolism, and allegory. So allegory is when a story has basically two meanings. It can be seen as just the fun little story that it is, in which this case, a fun story, not so fun story of animals taking over a farm. But in this case, it makes it an allegory because it has a deeper meaning and it connects to real historical events. So satire is also something else they focus on, which is kind of like making fun of things that are really going on. So, and foreshadowing, which is subtle hints are given throughout in order to point to what's going to happen, the bad things that'll happen at the end. We have dramatic irony, which is when we know what's going to happen, or the reader already knows something that the characters in the story do not. And verbal irony is like pretty much sarcasm. So words like equal and progress are used throughout the book, but we know that is kind of done in an ironic, sarcastic way because there's not really equality or progress on the farm. In fact, you find in some ways it's much worse with the animals in charge, with the pigs in charge, than it ever was with the humans in charge. So you see the picture of the pig carrying a whip. Equal takes on a new meaning when one of the animals is carrying a whip. So they're not really equal if one of them can whip the other. Themes and conflicts that we're going to kind of discuss. Human tendency to create class division. So even when we think everything is equal, we tend to just automatically divide people by some arbitrary random thing, like how much money they make, or race, or species, or whatever. So like in this story, the pigs think they're better because they're pigs, they're more intelligent. So that brings us to our next theme of intelligence versus non-intelligence, intellect versus non-intellectual. Is one better than the other? We have the corruptive nature of power. So people in power tend to just kind of can't help it. They become corrupt because of the power. The danger of innocence, or even, you could even spin that to say the danger of being uneducated. When you don't know what's going on, you don't know better, and you can't stop what's happening. And working class's unwillingness to question authority. So we have the working class animals that just blindly follow what the pigs say, and it ends up leading to more trouble. And the manipulation of language. So basically using words and speech to manipulate people into feeling a certain way or doing certain things. And this is something politicians all around the world do all the time. So a brief glance. So this we're not going to talk about too much because you're going to read it. But Old Major, he's the pig that starts this whole thing. But he's not a bad guy. He dreams that there's a world where animals can live together with human beings, and that everyone is happy, no one's ruling over anyone else. But he dies shortly after that. And in place are Snowball and Napoleon, who replace him in power, but their power is corrupt. They adopt a philosophy called animalism, which is basically all animals are equal. The animals defeat their human oppressor. And in the beginning, the farm prospers, but a rift between Napoleon and Snowball divides the farm. Napoleon wins. The farm no longer has meetings, so it goes from being kind of a democracy where everyone has a say to being a totalitarian society where only Napoleon and the pigs get to make all the decisions, and they keep everyone else in the dark. They start to act more like humans, and they have 7 commandments, which you will read and we'll talk about. But eventually they start changing until eventually they get rid of all of them, except all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. So our characters, we have Napoleon the pig, Snowball the pig. Leader, uses force, crafty. Snowball challenges Napoleon, intelligent, passionate, and eloquent. Squealer the pig spreads Napoleon's propaganda, cites false statistics to the animals so they think the farm is making progress. Unique ability to twist the truth to help pigs maintain control. We have Boxer and Clover, strong and loyal, naive. Boxer's close friend. He suspects the pigs are changing the 7 commandments. Benjamin the donkey refuses to feel inspired, believes life will remain unpleasant no matter what, understands the changes being made on the farm, but he decides to do nothing about it. Mr. Jones is the farmer who runs Manor Farm. He's unkind and a drunk who often neglects his chores. Molly the mare is vain and unconcerned concerned with beauty, craves extra attention. She desires human luxuries such as sugar and a warm place to sleep. Old Major the boar, he's a vision of a socialist utopia, which inspired the rebellion. Mr. Whimper the trader makes contact with the humans after the rebellion. His presence worries many of the animals. Moses the raven, Mr. Frederick and Mr. Pilkington. Moses the raven tells animals of Sugar Candy Mountain, a paradise that awaits animals after they die. They're owners of the neighboring farm. And that is it for that slideshow. So we will continue to make, I will continue to